Good morning, garden friends. I'm here in front of the herb garden, and today I'm going to be planting the herb garden, getting all of the stuff that I have in the greenhouse planted in here, as well as sowing some seeds, digging up some old stuff and putting in some new stuff, and really just getting this whole area organized for the growing season. Now, I've got many things to do on the farm. And the primary reason I chose today to do this section of the garden is because the rest of the farm right now is just too wet to do anything. We've had just horrendous rains lately. It started to dry up, and then we had another round of horrendous rains and torrential downpours. And now we're having wind. See the camera moving. Anyway, so the chicken pasture is a swamp. The vegetable garden is a swamp. The pond garden is a swamp. The only thing that isn't a swamp is the pollinator garden, but I just can't even deal with that right now. So I figured today would be a good day to do the herb garden, which is a nice compact little project that hopefully I can get done in a day and check that off my list and feel like I actually accomplished something. Hopeful that these rains just stop for a little while and that other areas of the farm can dry out a bit so that I can actually get some stuff planted. I'm basically at a standstill in the vegetable garden because the beds are just too wet to work. It is the second to third week of May, so really starting to bump up against when we need to get stuff in the garden. So I'm hoping that the rains slow down for a little bit and allow the gardens to dry up a bit. The pond garden is just, it's one big swamp. I've managed to plant a few things in there, but I really can't do much in there without doing significant damage to the soil. So I'm limited there. Yeah, it's been a frustrating spring, I have to say, in the garden world. It is the wettest I think we've ever had since we've been here on the farm. We've been here about 10 years, and we are literally sloshing our way out to the chickens every day, and that's not normal. Whoa. Yeah, so anyway, let's get to work on the herb garden. Let me show you what I'm gonna do, first steps, and then I'll take you through the planting of this garden. Here we are at the entrance to the herb garden, to the side entrance to the side deck and porch. And we have the two pink daylily clumps at the entrance to the walkway. So today's project, I'm going to do a whole bunch of things. The first thing I'm going to do is prep this area. I need to dig out all of these random bulbs that were underneath the lilac that got pulled out a month or so ago. These bulbs will be relocated. It's mainly grape hyacinths and some daffodils. I'm gonna chuck those old tulips that no longer flower, dig those out, and then just clean this area up. I do also have to, excuse me, I'm gonna clean the edge of this deck, get this mold off that was caused by the lilac being there and shading the deck. I want to get that cleaned up before I plant anything under it. I'm going to use a little bit of bleach in the water, and obviously I don't want that to fall on newly planted plants, so I'll do that first. And then I've made the decision that I am going to rip out these sages. This is common sage, and I was worried that these two plants right here weren't going to come back. It looks like they are coming back, but they look pretty rough. And these plants are fairly old. You can see that's a pretty big shrub. I also want to extend this sage hedge around the deck, and I don't have any plants, any common sage plants that would match. I want it to be one consistent size of plant. So what I did was I bought a tray of this Wise Old Sage is the variety name, and I'm going to use this to recreate a new hedge. Ooh, that wind is just really crazy today. So I'm going to dig out this hedge and replant it with new sage plants all the way around the deck. And then I'm going to turn to the main bed, and this is going to need a lot of preparation before I put in the rest of the herbs that I have. First thing, I've got to reestablish the wood chip pathway, which has completely sort of rotted away. And then I've got to refresh the beds with some compost. I've also got to get rid of these Verbena bonariensis seedlings that are everywhere throughout the garden. So it's going to take a good hoeing to get rid of these. I do have verbena growing in the greenhouse, so I have a stock of plants already. So none of these are of use to me this year. It kills me to do this, but I don't have space or time to deal with potting up these seedlings this year, and so they have to go. So lots of prep before I can even plant, and then I will get to planting. Let me take you over here. And this is what I've got to plant in terms of already started plants. I have the sage. I've got some lemon verbena, that's toppled over in the wind, and lemongrass. And then I've got, five or six actually types of basil, including regular Genovese basil, the purple basil, Thai basil, lemon basil, cinnamon basil. There are a number of different basils, mainly grown for the colors. I've mentioned before that when I grow this green and purple together, I love growing the Thai basil with it because the purple stems and the dark purple flowers pick up the purple here and the green here. The cinnamon basil on the end here also has similar coloring, not quite as dark, but I'm really interested to see how that grows this year. And then I've got parsley, lots of parsley, both flat and curly. I've got catnip for my cats. I'm going to dry catnip for them this year. And then some more summertime that I will sprinkle throughout the garden. I've also got some borage seeds that I will be direct sowing. I haven't quite decided where I'm going to put those yet. But yeah, we'll figure that out as we go. One fun little discovery as I'm digging out the sage and the bulbs is I have gobs and gobs of muscari bulbs. I had started out with a small bag of 20 muscari a few years back, and they self-sow. They seed themselves around a lot. And so I have hundreds of these muscari bulbs in that one spot that are probably a year or two from blooming, but I'm going to spread them around the various gardens so that I have little patches of muscari everywhere. It's so fun. All right, so I've dug out all the sage and dug out as many bulbs as I plan to keep, and smoothed everything over, removed a few rocks. There's this one rock here that has been here since we moved, and I thought about getting it out, but realized that this was probably a two-person job, and I'd probably have to take out some of these plants in order to move it. So I made the executive decision to just leave her right where she is. It's a nice rock, though. That would look really, really nice in our rock wall behind the barn. But here it'll sit for now. Anyway, so I'm going to get planting these sages in front of the deck. As you can see, the deck is looking a little bit less moldy than it was before. Got that all cleaned up. And so I'm going to plant the sages and then clean the bed up, top dress, and yeah, this part will be done. All right, part one of the herb garden reno is done. I fertilized the entire bed and then top dressed with a thick layer of compost. So it looks all pretty. Unfortunately, when I coated this bed with compost, it took out a lot of the dill seedlings that were starting to come up. Dill has traditionally self-sown itself in this bed. I just let it go to seed, and then every year I just have new dill plants everywhere, and I thin them out to where I want them and let them grow up and do it all over again. So I'm going to have to resow some dill in here. There are a few seedlings that survived, but I tried not to be too precious with it this year. So I will resow the dill. I planted some curly parsley along the edge here. And then in this blank space, I will sow dill, and I've also got some borage that I will direct sow here and hope that it does okay. I'll probably sow some more borage in the much sunnier section of the garden. This corner tends to get a little shadier than the rest of the garden. So I will sow it in two places to make sure I get a good borage crop. And then right here at the end of the bed, I plan to put a pot, a big pot. And whether I plant it this year or not remains to be seen, but at least the pot will go here. We do have some work to do on this foundation. The previous owners had put insulation and then did a sparge coat over it, and it's starting to peel, which just looks awful. So we need to repair that this summer. So I didn't want to plant anything that got in the way. So if I put a pot here, then we can just pick it up and move it when we need to do the work. So yeah, it's looking really, really good. So the next step is to take care of this space. This is a bit more of a job. So I'm going to go take a little break and rehydrate and get some food, and then I'll come back at it. I think first I'm going to carve out the pathway that has been sort of reabsorbed into the garden and get the wood chips down, and then lay out the plants that I'm going to plant today, and hopefully get everything planted today. And I'd like to get the compost on, top dressed with compost, and get it all neat and tidy before the end of the day. So I'm going to go get a snack and I'll be back. I got my path laid. I did a little weeding, and then I covered everything with a thick layer of compost. And so now I've got my trays of plants somewhat positioned, and I'm just going to start putting these in the ground and trying to get all of these in the ground before I run out of energy. I'd really like to get this project done today. It's mid-afternoon, and I'm definitely running out of energy, but I want to get this one checked off my list. So let's go. Okay, we're done, finally. Just in time too, because it's really getting dark out here and looks like it's going to rain at any moment. So I think I finished this up just in the nick of time. So let me give you a quick tour of the final product. Well, the sort of final product. Here's the sage bed, and I planted the new sage plants that will form the sage hedge around the deck. And then I added the curly leaf parsley in here. I left space in between the parsley and the sage for me to sow some dill and some borage, and then we'll get a pot to put in this end spot here. I also moved the boot scraper that we found here on the property to right here where we come in and out most of the time. I just thought that was a nice little touch. All right, coming around, as you can see, I've got quite a few herb plants left. I may tuck a few here and there, but I think I'm just going to end up giving away the rest of these. So back to the two daylilies, the pink daylilies up here. Again, we have the oregano, the golden oregano, perennial marjoram, variegated oregano, another patch of perennial marjoram, and then the golden oregano again. I just stuck a single parsley, flat leaf parsley plant in here. Just seemed a little bare, so coming around here, this is all flat parsley. Along here, lots of flat parsley. And then behind it is the mint bed, and it's just a jumble of different types of mint, as I've mentioned before. Spearmint, peppermint, I think there's chocolate mint and orange mint in here as well. So those can grow happily in that corner, and I'll just pull up the stuff that I don't want. I'll back up here to the center. Here's the center of the herb garden, and this has traditionally always been my basil island. So here at the head of it, I have, this is cinnamon basil, and you can see the stems are sort of pinkish. We'll see how that does this year. It's the first time I'm growing cinnamon basil. And then the ring around the remainder of the island is made up of regular Genovese basil, purple basil, and then this is Thai basil. And the stems on this and the flowers on this are deep purple, which is really, really pretty. So that just circles the entire bed, and that will grow together really nicely. Flanking this little obelisk, I've got 2 lemongrasses. Now, I talked about having a lemon corner, which I do, but these lemongrasses are going to get quite big, and I thought that corner didn't have enough room. So I put them here, and I thought that would be a nice border, or nice to flank this obelisk with 2 huge clumps of lemongrass. I'm going to stick some borage in here around the foot of the obelisk, and I'm also going to plant some morning glories and see how those do. I have, I believe it's a chocolate morning glory, which I thought was kind of interesting. So I will show you that when I sow it. Starting from the parsley side here, I've got 1 French tarragon that I just decided to plant just because. Threw in some more thyme. And then here is the the beginning of the lemon corner. This is lemon verbena. We have all the lemon balms that I split up and divided a couple weeks ago. I also stuck some catnip in this corner. And then along the path here, this is lemon basil. Oops, this one tipped over a little bit. This is lemon basil. And the leaves do have a very lemony smell to them. So that's a really nice basil to have in the garden. Big patch of catnip, because I have 3 cats and they need lots of catnip. And then here's lemon thyme, and another lemon thyme over here to complete the lemon corner. And then I've just got little English thymes that are planted in here. Big patch of thyme that overwintered, which is odd for me. Usually thyme doesn't overwinter very well. But that one came back, so I'm happy about that. So yeah, that is the herb garden, all done, at least for now, anyway. I do think I'm going to stick a few of the grape hyacinth bulbs that I dug up earlier in the corner there near where the lilac used to be. I'm going to tuck some grape hyacinths in these beds along the edges so that in the spring we have pretty blue flowers coming up along the edges. I think that would be really nice. Whew. All right, this project is done. It feels really nice to get this off my to-do list. It'll be nice to walk in and out of the house every day and see at least one part of my garden that is done, and I don't have any major projects to do with it. I can just sit back and watch it grow. I will definitely be showing you more of this garden as it fills out and develops. And yeah, I think it'll be really pretty. If you remember in previous videos, I said that I was going to try something different in this garden this year, in that I'm going to keep it simple with just herbs. Normally, I throw in a bunch of pollinator-friendly annuals, in particular Verbena bonariensis, but some zinnias and cosmos and the like, just because I like color and I like to see butterflies close to the house. But by the end of the season, it ends up just being a big jumble of stuff, and the herbs get lost in the process. So this year, I'm just going to keep it to herbs, try to keep it clean and simple, and we'll see how that goes. So I hope this video was enjoyable for you, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.